But here is where Arkansas is. And the point of fact is they're a 2-8 football team. 2-8. Or 2-6. Or 2-6. Well, yeah, they're 2-8 right now with 2 to play. And they're not good. I mean, no one's going to sit here and tell you that they're good. But here's the deal with Arkansas. Before the Sam Pittman was fired, they lost. So, yes, Arkansas is 0-6 in conference play and 2-8 overall. But all but one of their conference games has been a one-score loss. And before Sam Pittman was fired, they lost at Ole Miss by 6 points in a game they led late. Then they got smashed by Notre Dame. Notre Dame came in and beat them by 1 million, and that's when Sam Pittman was out because it looked like the team was quitting on Sam Pittman. Because remember, they lost to Ole Miss, then they went and lost to Memphis, at Memphis in a game that they led by 20 points or 21 points, and they lost that game at Memphis. And then they got smashed by Notre Dame, so Sam Pittman was fired. But since Bobby Petrino's been elevated, there were 3 straight 3-point losses at Tennessee, at home to A&M, 45-42, and then to Mississippi State, 38-35. And then a 1-point loss last week at LSU, 23-22. So with just 2 games left in a 2-8 season, Bobby Petrino's done a good job of reigniting the competitive fire in this team, even through the coaching change. And he's trying to lobby for the job and that kind of stuff, which I don't think is going to happen, obviously. And they've already had that bite of the Bobby Petrino apple, and it didn't go good. I don't think that's going to happen. But point of fact, I mean, this is a team that's fighting.
Right.
And they score a lot of points with Taylon Green. They run the ball at a pretty good rate. They don't play any defense. But the Longhorns' offense has gone in a shell quite a bit and can shoot itself in the foot with the best of any of them. So, but this is what Arkansas is. And obviously, it would be absolutely a collapse if you lose to Arkansas. This is why I called it yesterday one of the toughest games for Sark culture-wise. That's why everybody's yelling at him for not yelling at the team, and when Kirk Bohls asked him about the underachievement, and he still went positive with it. He's trying to keep this team focused on this game, because I would believe this: if they can win this game and handle it, whatever the final score is, they set themselves up. They know they're going to be up and focused and locked in for a rivalry game with A&M that everybody's going to watch. It's going to standalone game in college football on Friday, Black Friday night. That's your rival. There's in-state ties. There's family ties. Most of the Texas roster was recruited by both of those schools. They have friends at A&M. It won't be hard to get them motivated for that game.
No.
This game is the one.
Yeah.
Can you get up for a 2-8 team? You're going to watch the film and say, they stink. You got to keep them locked in, and they've been fighting like heck here. Again, a 3-point loss to Tennessee, 3-point loss to Mississippi State, a 1-point loss to LSU. They're in these games, and you certainly can't lose this game. You lose this game, man, things get really, really toxic around here. Right into the recruiting season, NIL season. You're not going to the playoff, because we'll get into it later. But one of the big challenges Texas has had this year, in addition to their own on-field performance, is it's been a tough year to recruit, because they were gone for 6 weeks. When you can't, when you're recruiting during the season, you're bringing in having these big hosted weekends where you're bringing in players from for your recruiting class for visits. Well, the Ohio State game was on the road. Then you had 3 cupcakes at home in the heat of the Texas summertime. That ain't good. Then you're off. Then you're playing at Florida. You're playing in Dallas. That was your home game, but you can't really host recruits you can get them tickets, but you can't really host recruits at the Oklahoma game. Then you're gone for 2 more weeks. Then you come home. You had a Vanderbilt game, but that's 11 in the morning. And if you know the timeline of that, if a kid's playing a Friday night high school football game, it's kind of tough to get to Austin for an 11 o'clock in the morning game the next day for a recruiting visit. Mm-hmm. So it's been a tough recruiting year in that regard. No one's ever going to cry a river for Texas on the recruiting trail, but that's where they've been. So now they have these 2 games. So if you'd listen to the recruiting insiders, Jack, these 2 games, I mean, these are huge for recruiting. This is a 2:30 mid-window game with Arkansas where you're going to bring in a lot of people for the classes of 2020. This class you're about to try to finish out for 2026 and 2027. So this becomes a big recruiting weekend. So you need to show forward. Your team, and Sark knows this, you need to play a good game here.
Now you're playing for next year.
And you're playing for, to keep the momentum of your program. Because, again, if you can sell 9-3 with 3 losses on the road to 2 top 5 teams. You can sell that. The momentum is still in case. We shot ourselves in the foot. We lost that Florida game. That's our fault. Much like Alabama and Ole Miss last year, lost games they shouldn't have, but it kept them out of the playoff. You can sell that. You can't sell 7-5. You can try to. It's not going to sell as well. That's the challenge Sark has, and that's why those criticizing him this week for not, torching his team and admitting to Kirk Bohls that, we've massively underachieved. We stink. We're our own worst enemy. Now, he could have said that better. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I understand his message, and his message is to his locker room to get locked in for this game. Listen to Bobby Petrino. He knows very well. he faced Texas last year when he was the offensive coordinator at Texas A&M or a couple of years ago when he was the offensive coordinator at A&M for Jimbo Fisher. That was 2 seasons ago, so he's faced Texas. He understands this. Here we go. Here is, he's been around Pete Kwiatkowski, but here is him talking about this rivalry with Texas and Arkansas.
About it last night, in the team meeting, obviously, but we're going to do some things to make sure they understand it because it's always been a big deal. I remember the first time I was here, it was always a big deal about, the Arkansas-Texas rivalry and the big games. So we're going to try to put a few things together for them, make sure they understand it, and know how important it is to the state of Arkansas. Just the big games, and the scoring, and I guess what stands out more to me than anything is when I was here and I used to have a fantasy camp, and the guys that would come there and tell the stories about the games, and not just the win but the loss, and how they weren't over it yet. So you knew that it was huge when they weren't over that loss yet.
All right, so the Hogs are coming, and the Hogs been close a couple of times here of late with the Sam Pittman change. Maybe should have made that sooner. We know why coaches held on last year. They didn't the calendar wasn't advantageous to firing coaches last year. This year it's more possible because again, Sam Pittman would have been fired last year. Just like Billy Napier would have been fired last year in a traditional cycle of coaching because they weren't getting it done and it was proven. But last year, because the calendar was so onerous as far as the portal was going to open in December and your roster is going to jump in the portal and be gone before you can hire a next head coach. And then how are you going to hire a head coach if you don't have a roster? Like, yeah, you can be a good Arkansas job, but this is a transactional college football where your whole roster's gone. I don't want that job.
Right.
And so that was the position you're about to put your program in if you fired Sam Pittman last November or, Billy Napier. This year, the portal won't open until January. And it opens for 15 days. So you got some time to hire a coach, get him in place, try to finish off a high school recruiting class, get a staff built, sell the program, and then hit the portal to keep your own players locked in that are in your locker room, sell them on the new coach and the new vision, and then attack the portal yourself in January. The 1 month is massive. Because in this day and age, and last year, if you had fired a coach, you were done for a couple of years.
Oh yeah,
because you're
no chance.
And then your car is like been stripped in the parking lot by the robbers. And what do I want that car? I want that car. I would have liked that car before maybe, but I don't want that car now. That's a rebuild, and but again, that's why they made the changes, and the coaches lobbied for it and pushed for it, and now you're seeing that's why all these coaches, what the record number of coaches fired is. They're getting in line here. And Penn State, Virginia Tech was the first one to make a move, and they're the first ones to hire a big-name coach with James Franklin this week. LSU and Florida are trying to get in on that. Arkansas is trying to get in on that. Point being, they probably should have moved on from Sam Pittman last year. This is a failed season. They're 2-8. They're not good. But they're fighting, and they're going to come in here and knowing that, a 3 and, because they play Missouri to wrap up the year, 3-9 or 4-8, not great. We're not happy with that, but we beat Texas. We beat Texas. We beat the Longhorns. And that's what the olds are saying there at Arkansas. And the olds at Texas are all mad. So this is Sark's mad. This is the challenge Sark has right now. And that's why I will give him grace, give him, some liberty on some of the things he said on Monday. Because his message is not to us. His message is to the locker room. This locker room is still very talented. They were just embarrassed on national television. I saw the ratings yesterday. Almost 11 million people were watching that game. That's embarrassing. You got to go play better and can start get them back up, and that's the challenge of this culture. Because if Texas plays an A-level game, a B-plus game, they'll win this game. Anthony Hill won't be playing, though.
That's true.
Anthony Hill won't be playing because it's now been ruled, and we'll hear from Sark tomorrow on his Zoom availability. He'll be on the SEC conference call today, but that broken hand's going to keep him out, and they're still wondering about Ryan Wingo, who came into the game against our Georgia with that fractured, dislocated thumb and maybe re-aggravated it. So, 2 of your top players could be out. You feel pretty good about receiver because if Wingo's out, you still have Emmett Mosley and Parker Livingston and DeAndre Moore. You can manufacture those kind of things. But a linebacker, Anthony Hill's one of your most important players. It would be Leonga Lafau and Ty Anthony Smith, but there's not much behind that. So, that's one to watch. But that's really the message for Texas, and that's really the message for Sark. And that's all Sark can do right now. And he's a big boy. He can handle the criticism of the things he says and doesn't say at the press conference. But as I said all day yesterday, Sark's not going to, air out his team on a Monday press conference just because the fans want him to. He's going to try to protect this locker room. At the end of the year, When it's time to pick apart what went wrong and the disappointing parts, those conversations can be had. Right now, you're trying to fly the plane, land the plane, get 2 more wins, get to 9-3 for all the reasons I just mentioned. Because if you get to 9-3 and your 3 losses are in those places against those teams, it's forgivable. You failed the mission, but at the same time, the program still would have some momentum to it. I believe that you can sell, and because the best, the most of the best players on this team are coming back next year. If you can sell the idea and keep them out of the portal and all those things, but you got to finish strong, and that starts on Saturday.